A quick plug on March 23rd, so that's Thursday, March 23rd, will be the 5th installment of our Rise Women's Luncheon Leadership Program. So this is a wonderful, we do this quarterly. This will be Q1 of 23. This will be our first quarter. It's going to be the biggest Rise event we've had. I already have 230 women that have RSVP'd for this event. It's free. It's going to be from 11 to 1 o'clock right here. And the focus is going to be on healthcare and general women's wellness. So we're going to have Amy Stroud conducting a roundtable. I believe, Tiffany, are you going to help out with the roundtable as well? The conversation, just Amy? So Amy's going to conduct a roundtable with several different physicians here in our community talking about self-care and wellness. And then we're going to have multiple breakout sessions from women-owned businesses here in Pulaski County that kind of revolve around that self-care and healthcare bubble. So you can actually choose where you want to go, what businesses you want to interact with, and you can enjoy that last hour. Should be a fantastic presentation. Again, that's on Thursday, March 23rd. I've got 20 spots left. We can take 250 people. After that, we can't take any more. It is free, but at some point we have to finalize our numbers. Lunch is provided for everybody, and like I said, it's from 11 to 1 p.m. on Thursday, March 23rd. It'll be right here at the center as well. So if you'd like to RSVP for that and you haven't, please send the chamber an email and RSVP with me directly, or Crystal, or any one of us, or Tiffany. She'll get it to me. We'll make sure to get you RSVP'd for that. So also, one more quick plug. This Saturday is shaping up. I'm going to knock on wood, but it's shaping up. Looks like we might have some really good weather for the 11th annual Shamrock Shuffle. So after 10 years in Burnside, we have moved our race into downtown Somerset, and we are seeing record participation. We have over 550 people that have already registered online. Good weather will bring me another 100, but we are going to have a lot of fun. That's at 10 a.m. this Saturday in downtown. The start line is going to be real easy to find. It's going to be right in front of the chamber office on East Mount Vernon Street. You can't miss it. We're going to be blocking off a section of the street, new race route, run, walk, bring your dog, bring a stroller with the kiddos, have some fun with us. It should be a really great time. There's a lot of energy about us moving the race into downtown. Lots of after parties and excitement for us moving into downtown. So if you've not registered, you can register today, shamrockshuffleky.com, or you can just come out on race day. If you look up and you like what the weather looks like on Saturday morning, you can come out and join us, and you can register in person. So hopefully you'll consider doing that. Finally, I want to thank all the people that have come out and have set up an information table. So this is a service we provide. It's free for our members. You can come out, you can set up an information table and interact with our crowd here. And I would encourage everybody, if you've not made time, please, before you leave, go see our different businesses and organizations and get to know more about what they have to offer for our community. And I want to recognize all them today. So we have CASA of Southern Kentucky. We have SPIDA. We have the SPIDA Community Foundation. We have Hospice of Lake Cumberland, March of Dimes, Centos, Pulaski County Elementary Invention Summer Program, Cumberland Falls State Park, Bluegrass Senior Living, University Center of Southern Kentucky at SCC, Crown Staffing, Kentucky Career Center, Hendrickson, Faith Healthcare, the Kentucky Cancer Program East, the Center for Rural Development, WTLO Somerset 106 Radio, Blue Dragon Ventures, United Way of South Central Kentucky, Heads Up Digital TV, and Lake Cumberland Regional Hospital. Could we give them a big round of applause, please? I want to leave as much time as we can for our guest speaker, Dr. Huang, today. I'm actually very excited. I just purchased a copy of the book, and I've been told, Mike Tarter, I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you still here, Mike? Where are you at? Mike assured me that this was an excellent read. So Excellent. He just verified that. So afterwards, if you'd like to purchase a copy of the book, Dr. Huang will be over here as well, signing books, purchasing books. But I'm going to go ahead and turn the program over to my boss this year, President of the Chamber, Mr. Sean Doherty.
All right, it is great to be here today, and as we call our meeting to order, our luncheon meeting, I'd like to say thank you to various groups that make the Chamber what it is. First, with our world-class sponsors, as you can see up here on the wall, and you have them there at your table. And of course, we've got our Chairman's Circle sponsors and our Ambassador Circle sponsors as well. A big round of applause for those sponsors who help us make the Chamber what it is. Let's not forget each individual member that makes up the Chamber and your contributions, so thank you to all members. I'd like to also thank you to the Center for Rural Development for providing our venue. They're so good to us. And they take care of us with every need that we have. This is just a great place to be, so thank you to the center. And of course, our food, Sassy Spoons Catering. Thank you guys for the food. And I have to thank Coca-Cola Bottling and Pepsi-Cola Bottling of Somerset for providing us drinks as well. Next, I'll have Lisa Phelps, our first vice president, to introduce our new chamber members for the month.
Good afternoon. Please join me in welcoming our newest members. And if you are here in attendance, please stand. We'll recognize you. Cumberland Trim, Doors and Design, Alan Larkin. Downtown Pizza Pub, Amber and Jonathan Rhodes. Internal Solutions, Indeed, Jeff Ward. Jeff Sims, Realtor. Knife of the Party Catering, Sean Thompson. Somerset Martial Arts, Ian and Teresa Lawler. Stone Leadership Institute, Jeremy Stone. The Suit Shop, Tim and Crystal Cox. Utilicom Communications, Danielle Davis. Thank you all for joining the Chamber, and welcome.
Okay, next we're going to recognize our Chamber Ambassador of the Month. Josh Collins, will you come up and be presented with your Ambassador of the Month certificate? And while Josh is getting his picture here for the newspaper, I want to say a big thank you to the ambassadors. Bobby always talks about how the office with few employees can do so much work in this community, and it is, as he says, because of the hard work that our ambassadors do. So a big round of applause for our ambassadors. Okay, as you're aware, today our luncheon is sponsored by both First and Farmers, National Bank, and the Job Shop. First and Farmers has yielded their time for our speaker. I'll also mention that they have purchased some books that we'll give away when we do our drawings later. So that's really nice. Thank you guys. Thank you, First and Farmers. The Job Shop, I'm going to have Caitlin Baker to come up, and she'll talk to us just briefly about the Job Shop.
Hello, everybody. As they mentioned, I am Caitlin Baker. I am the sales and marketing rep for the job shop in Somerset. I just want to take a minute before we get started to thank Bobby Clue and the Chamber of Commerce for giving us the opportunity to co-sponsor today's luncheon and to give us a few minutes to talk about what we do at the job shop. So if you're not familiar, the Job Shop is a staffing and employment agency here in Somerset. We have been servicing this community for nearly 40 years, and to really drum it down, we basically match employees to employers. So we have 3 different services we offer. We have a temporary service, which is more if you were looking just to cover a vacation, a medical leave, if you are looking to cover seasonal needs or maybe just a special project. We basically send the people out there, they get the job done, and you send them home. We also have a temp to hire service. That is more of a full-time position. That is better for companies who are not yet willing to commit to employees. It's more of a try before you buy. You get a good idea of the employee's work ethic before you add them to your full-time payroll. We also have a direct hire service, and that is more we do all the legwork, bring the employee to you, and they go on your payroll on day 1. The job shop itself does focus more on entry-level positions, and that could be call center reps, warehouse associates, general laborers, whatever your entry-level position is, that's where we focus. We do have a sister company called Technical Staffing Solutions. That is our skilled division. They are a team of dedicated recruiters who work with candidates that have a specialized skill or trade, a certification, or a degree. Some of those positions could include welders, forklift operators, CDL drivers, accounting specialists of all skill levels, IT tech, managers, supervisors, or heavy equipment operators. Whatever your skill is for your company, that's where they hone in and help you find a candidate for that position. Technical staffing also has a division within itself that we call our facilities management division. This is our drug screening and training division. They offer instant lab-based DOT and hair follicle drug screening. They also have the availability, or they are also able to do breath alcohol testing and offer training such as CPR, first aid, AED, and bloodborne pathogens. Any of those services can be performed in our office or on-site at your facility. So if you have something happen at 3 a.m. on a Thursday, we have somebody able to come out to you then and do the drug screen, and you don't have to wait until something opens at 8 a.m. the next morning. We also have a medical division, which is called Med Plus Staffing. This division staffs RNs, LPNs, CNAs, and CMAs in medical settings such as hospitals, long-term care facilities, rehabs, clinics, home health, and surgical centers. So any medical setting, we can staff nurses. I would also like to mention any candidate placed through any division, whether it be the job shop, technical staffing solutions, Med Plus staffing, they must complete an extensive screening process, including an interview, a 12-panel drug screen, a national background check. We run them through E-Verify, and we also do safety training. If your organization requires a specific orientation or testing, we also offer those. Whether you need an MVR check, a DOT drug screen, or CARES reporting, we can do all of those for you. Our clerical, skilled, and medical candidates must also complete additional relative skills testing, so they have to prove to us that they have the skill before we submit them for your position. Again, I want to thank you for your time today. We do have an info table set up in the back, so if you have any questions or would like to know more information about what we do, you can stop by and speak with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin, and also thank you for the centerpieces on the tables today. Thank you all for providing those. Well, and now what you're all here for, the exciting part, I want to introduce to you Dr. John Huang. Dr. Huang is a retired orthodontist and military veteran. He currently serves as a UK columnist for Nolan Group Media and editor-in-chief of JustTheCats.com. He also covers the NFL and the MLB for Sports View America. Dr. Huang is an award-winning author, co-author of 3 books, Kentucky Passion, From the Rafters of Rupp, and Cut to the Chase. Without further ado, I introduce to you Army Major Dr. John Huang.
Thank you, Sean. Boy, this is a little bit awkward, isn't it? Now, every one of you guys know how we media types feel when you're expecting to hear John Calipari, but you get Bruiser Flint, right? This is what you get. But Alan feels horrible about this. He texted me just after midnight and said, "Doc, I got COVID." I kept waiting for him to say April Fools, but he never did. So I talked to him on the way down here. He's actually sounding pretty bad, so we want to lift him up in our prayers and our thoughts. But ever since Cut to the Chase came out, Alan and I, we wanted to do stuff like this. And you guys, you don't know what a beautiful, well, maybe you do, what a beautiful facility and what great people, a great area this really is. I was driving down here, and I was telling Bobby and Sean how nice and beautiful the scenery was. This is a real treasure, so thank you all for having me here. Curious, how many of you still remember Alan Cutler? Okay. And how many of you came here specifically because you wanted to hear Alan Cutler? And did any of you come here because you wanted to hear Dr. John Huang? Oh, a few people, all right. Yeah, those are my family members. I paid them to be here. But it's probably a good place to start. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Dr. John Huang. Alan refers to me as Doc because of my previous profession. I was, believe it or not, a dentist, an orthodontist. I created beautiful smiles in this area for many years. I'm looking around, I'm seeing if I see any familiar teeth. You know, I may have had my fingers in your mouth at one time or another, so that doesn't sound quite right, does it? But no, it's one of these things where you think back. I retired from active practice in about 2015, and if you could have told me back then that I would be doing what I am right now, I've always had a passion for riding. I've always loved University of Kentucky sports. So to be able to combine those two passions is really a dream come true. And if you get nothing out of this talk today, I want you to think about that life is short, it's full of wonderful experiences, and we need to just make sure that we take advantage of those experiences when the opportunity comes along. I know what you guys are thinking. What is this Chinese guy with a ponytail doing talking about University of Kentucky sports? How did that actually happen? I am full-blooded Chinese. My parents were born in southern China. And in 1949, right before the communists took over the mainland, they emigrated over to the island nation of Taiwan. For those of you familiar, Taiwan is the seat of the nationalist government. It's about 100 kilometers off the coast of mainland China. And it was there that my mom and dad, they met. They fell in love, they got married. A year later, my sister Mary was born, and then 3 years later, I came along. So let's fast forward now to 1963. My parents, they're thinking American dream, right? They're going to leave the comforts and security of their homeland, their families, their jobs, their friends, and they're going to go halfway around the world and settle in the United States of America in order to provide a better life for their kids. So my dad, he's a civil engineer. He winds up at the University of Virginia. He gets his master's, his PhD, and then he gets his first job at, guess where? An assistant professor at the University of Kentucky. Our family moves to Lexington. My younger brother Michael is born. 1967, that's where that love affair with UK started. And as an 80-year-old boy growing up in Lexington, everybody wanted to be Dan Issel, right? I wanted to be Dan Issel. Only two problems. I was too short, and I wasn't any good, right? So I did the next best thing. I became the best University of Kentucky basketball fan I could possibly be. My dad played basketball in China, so we were familiar with UK, Adolph Rupp. He already had his 4 national championships at that time. He had Dan Issel, Mike Pratt, Mike Casey those years. That was it. We didn't get to go to many games, but you can bet I sat and I listened to K-Wood on the radio every single game. And that love has just continued on and on and on. And like I said, if you could have told me that Now, fast forward 50 years, that I'd be standing up here talking to the good folks of Somerset-Pulaski County about something I love, University of Kentucky sports, and writing about it, I would have told you that you are absolutely, positively nutso, wacko. It's just not going to happen. But here it is. All right. To be able to do projects with guys like Alan Cutler, who I'm not that far behind him, but I do remember watching him a lot on TV, and he was the big sports guy here in Central Kentucky at that time. And to do a book subsequently with Kyle Macy, who I think arguably is still the most popular player ever to wear the Kentucky uniform, that just really blows my mind. But once again, that kind of dovetailed into all these projects, that life really is short, that opportunities come along, and when it comes time to be able to document those opportunities, if you can do that and if you can share it with other people, then so much the better, because life is all about relationships, right? Right. So how did Alan and I meet? Well, before they had nice chairs set up here, and it was going to kind of be a back and forth. The way Alan and I have done these things, it's real simple. He does all the talking, and then I just kind of nod my head. And I'm restricted to a very, very specific word count. I think he lets me speak about 200 words during the whole thing. But he's not here today. Woohoo, right? So I get to go and go and go and go and go. But Alan and I, we actually met when I was working in my office, and I treated his son. I put braces on his son. And I didn't really get to see Alan a whole lot. It was his wife, Judy, he brought JJ in all the time. But I knew who Alan was, and he knew who I was. Then when I retired, I started going to these media opportunities. And the way those things work is they'd have some speaker up on the podium, usually the coach, some of the players, and then all the reporters, would be kind of sitting in a line. And I was kind of shy, believe it or not. I didn't want to be real conspicuous. I was just kind of learning the ropes, so I kind of found myself sitting off in a corner someplace, just trying not to make any waves. But sure enough, what happens? I hear this loud, booming voice coming from the back of the room. Hey, Doc, what the blank are you doing here? Alan, he has pretty colorful language, and that brought everybody's attention right on to me. And I'm just kind of slinking down in my chair, and I say, is this the way it's really going to be from here on in? So that was how we met. And as a novice, I wanted to find people who were really good at their craft, and Alan was a pro. I started following him around. I started shadowing him, doing what he was doing, and before you knew it, I was trying to be able to convince him that he owed a responsibility to the Big Blue Nation to be able to document his 40 years of service. And he was very, very reluctant initially. Didn't want to do it. Doc, nobody wants to hear about my life. Nobody's going to buy the book. Boy, was he wrong. So I need you guys to really, really be a big part of success here today, so that after I leave here, I can tell Alan, Bud, you owe me one. You owe me a big, big one from that standpoint. Took a lot of back and forth, but finally I convinced Alan that this was probably the way to go about it. Sure enough, we sat down. I can't tell you the number of mornings that we sat around his breakfast table and just hashed everything out, his whole life story. And you know Alan, if you do know Alan, the guy likes to talk and talk and talk. We went off all these different tangents, and I had to record these things, and I had to play it back and transcribe everything. So it was driving me nuts, because Alan would love to tell all these wild stories, and half of them, he said, if this gets in the book, I'm going to have to kill you. So I've got to go to my grave with a lot of secrets and be able to keep what Alan wanted of the book, and what isn't in the book was a real challenge. Now, granted, there's still a lot of stories in the book itself, but Alan is a professional in the sense that he's not going to throw anybody on the bus. He's going to tell it like it is. He's going to tell it like he remembers seeing that it was. And then you can kind of read it, and you can kind of decide for yourself how much of it actually happened the way it did. He swears every word is true. Every word is true. But we went through, it took us probably maybe 3 or 4 times longer than we anticipated. We ran into some legal issues. There were some things that we couldn't decide whether we wanted to put it in the book and risk being sued or not. I thought that was a wise choice. So it took a while for the lawyers to look through it, and it's just like life in general now. You have these wonderful ideas, you want to be able to share it with people, but then you also have to kind of watch every step that you take so to make sure that you don't get into trouble, you don't say the wrong thing. The foreword, John Calipari did the foreword. Alan has a new radio show now, and as much as he ripped Coach Cal this past year, I don't think the two are ever going to speak together again. But at the time, they had a great relationship, so John Calipari actually ended up doing the foreword for the book, and it's fantastic foreword. It really captures Alan the way that their relationship, they go back to their Pittsburgh days. So he talks about how they met initially and how when Cal came and got the job at Kentucky, the one familiar face was Alan Cutler sitting there. So that's really interesting. And what really intrigued me was how hesitant Alan was to even ask Coach Cal to do that. I'm thinking to him, why not? You know, you get him to do it. If he says yes, we're going to sell him a gazillion of these books. And Alan says, no, I just don't want to be beholden to anybody. You know, I want, if in the future I want to be able to speak my mind, I don't want to feel like I have to say something nice about somebody, you know, just because they did the foreword for the book. To me, that spoke volumes, because I think that'll indicate to you the truth that goes behind a lot of the stories that are in there. The book ended up being a behemoth, 480 pages, 129 chapters. Anybody here know the significance of the number 129? 129 was the winning streak, the Kentucky basketball winning streak when they went from Alumni Gym to Memorial Coliseum. They won 129 straight games. So we thought there was a little bit of symbolism associated with that one. Each of these stories are short. Those of you who have grown up in this particular area are absolutely familiar with a lot of the figures that Alan writes about, but I promise you this, the stories will be unique to you. Alan, in his own particular way, takes you behind the scenes. He describes these individual encounters, and they're not just with basketball players, you know, football players or UK people, but he talks about Pete Rose. There's a chapter in there with golfers, Lee Trevino, you know, Gary Player, you know, all sorts of everything that happened within the culture of Kentucky sports from maybe, let's say, 1980 when Alan arrived in town till when he retired in 2018, you know, it's in there. And it's a really entertaining read. But I guess the thing that really intrigues me the most about the book itself is the very beginning. It's part memoir. And I asked you, you know, how does a Chinese guy end up here? Well, how does a Jewish guy from New York end up spending 40 years in the market here in central Kentucky? Because realistically, it's a small market. It's not New York, it's not LA, it's not Chicago. And Alan had some personality to be able to excel in each of those regions. And as you'll find out, when you think of Alan Cutler on the surface, you think brash, arrogant, right? Loud, somewhat obnoxious. But when you get to know the guy, you realize that deep down inside, he's got a heart that really prioritizes family, right? That prioritizes relationships. And he's not the guy that you see, that cartoon character that we saw all those years on LEX 18. Yeah. And I think that really comes out in the book, and we try to draw it out from his college days at Cortland State in upstate New York to his first job announcing Little League Baseball in Farmington, New Mexico. He went on to Colorado, up to Boise, Idaho, and then ended up here in Lexington. Went to Pittsburgh for about 4 years, but by and large, stayed here for all that time. Some of the stuff about what went on in the newsroom, it's pure gold. His relationship with Rob Bromley, man, those two were giants during that period. But they were competitors. They were constantly trying to get the scoop off of each other, right? And then his chapters on Rick Pitino, I think, are really neat. Rick Pitino, some of you love him, some of you hate him. But at the beginning, Alan was Rick's guy, New York guy. Rick gave him all the scoop, the fact that he was going to be coming here to coach the University of Kentucky in '89. Alan was the one who broke that story. Yeah. Later on, they weren't such good friends. There was one episode where Alan kind of brought to the attention that there was one game in which Kentucky players ended up kind of breaking the rules. They went and shot free throws for another person who was fouled. And Alan made a big deal out of it. Rick got a hold of it, and the two met in front of Memorial Coliseum and just had one of these knockout, drag-out arguments. If there had been cell phones during that time and somebody had taken video of that, one of those guys would have never had a job because there were some pretty brash things that said. Chapters on Hal Mumme, there's some breaking news in there regarding him and his contrast and how he was let go from there. A lot of fun stories. People like Billy Crystal that also grew up in New York. You know Billy Crystal, the guy who does the Muhammad Ali imitations? He grew up playing basketball with Alan. There's a chapter in there on that. A very poignant chapter on Melvin Turpin, the Big Dipper. Right? Melvin subsequently, he died by suicide. So the way Alan found out about that'll just bring tears to your eyes. You'll laugh, you'll cry during all this. And then finally, Alan doesn't duck the deep social issues too. You know, race, the racial element in sports, a bunch of time is devoted to that. And there's some really neat, insightful aspects about black athletes at the University of Kentucky during that particular time that are really eye-opening to everybody from that standpoint. So once again, short chapters. I'm sure you'll enjoy reading it. And Alan, once again, he just feels so bad about that. But I told him, don't worry about it. I'm going to sell a bunch of these books. You'll be fine. All right. But by and large, I'm a basketball fan, you know. Grew up loving basketball, living and dying. The team this year, boy, it's been tough, hasn't it? Past 3 years. Yeah, you have the 9-16 year, worst season in the history of Kentucky basketball. Then arguably the worst loss to St. Peter's in the history of Kentucky basketball. And then you start out this year, expectations so high. Remember this team when we saw them in the Bahamas? We thought, they're going to be long and lean and shot blockers and rim protectors and running up and down the field. It's going to be great. Final Four, here we come. And then they start out kind of slow and actually take a dip and hit rock bottom against South Carolina and Georgia this year. But there's hope. It does seem like that they're making a comeback. Injuries are going to be a big problem this year. I don't know. They say that Cason Wallace didn't practice. I'm not sure if he practiced today, but there's a chance that he may not end up playing in the tournament. How far can Kentucky go? I don't know. But that's part of our culture. As a media member, it's changed a little bit. To be honest with you, it's not quite as much fun anymore. Because it used to be, I'd be just so passionate. When Kentucky won, I'd be jumping up and down, and when they lost, I'd be depressed for like days and days and days. You know, I still remember the shot clock violations against Wisconsin back in 2015. You know, you go back to Middle Tennessee State during Joe B. Hall era, and then even the Leitner shot, right? I'm still suffering post-traumatic stress syndrome from some of that. But part of my therapy, though, was I did another book. It's called Kentucky Passion. I brought a few copies here today. And faith is really important to me. So I kind of wrote it as a little bit of a spiritual type devotional book. And it hasn't gotten a lot of press, a lot of publicity. But what I did in Kentucky Passion is I took what I consider 52 of the most iconic moments in Kentucky basketball history. And you can imagine there are a bunch of them. You probably have your own list, but stuff like the Mardi Gras miracle, where Kentucky's down 31 points in the second half against LSU and somehow rallies to win that game, or when Tayshaun Prince hits those 5 3-pointers to start the game versus North Carolina. That was probably the loudest I'd ever heard Rupp Arena. Blew the roof off the place, right? And then, of course, 1978, that national championship year, with Goose and him and his 41 points. That was the first national championship in my lifetime, so I treasure that. So we took all those iconic moments, and my co-author, Del Didway, who's a lot more famous than I, he does all these sports devotional books. He took each one of those moments, and he followed it up with what we call an inspirational moment, a life lesson. So for example, you're down 31 points, your backs are against the wall. What do? You don't give up, right? You trust your teammates, you trust the process, right? You trust the coaches. When that happens in life, what do? You don't just kick in throw in the towel, right? No, you rally back and you make a go of it. If life serves you a poop sandwich, it doesn't mean you have to eat it, right? You can always make lemonade out of lemons. So we did that. And the book came out in 2021, and because of my parents and what they did for me, I owe everything to them. I dedicated the book to my parents. My mom passed away in 2014, Alzheimer's, horrible disease. To see the matriarch of your family essentially lose her mind over a slow course of time, it just really breaks your heart. But my dad, we were always big basketball fans, and then he passed away in 2021, September 11th, right before the book came out. Yeah, bad timing, but he was able to see an advanced copy of it, and he still had all his faculties, and I know that he would have been just so proud of seeing that book in print. I know he's probably looking down on us right now and sending his blessings. I feel his energy and his power. But that book was a labor of love. And then finally, the book that I did with Kyle, it's a real keepsake item. It's hardback, it's 8 by 11, and it chronicles, it's called The Rafters of Rupp, and it chronicles all the players with their jerseys retired that are hanging up in Rupp Arena. And Kyle was able to interview each one of those people live when they were still alive, the ones that were living. And so what we wanted to do was we wanted to tell the story of Kentucky basketball, and what better way to tell it than through the first-person narrative of the people who played it. So full glossy photographs, real glossy print pages on there. And once again, another labor of love. And it just makes me once again be so thankful to realize what you can do if you dream about what you want to do, about setting those goals. Kyle and I, we were compatriots in college. We were both sophomores during that 1978 season. And I was a nerdy guy who was just trying to get through organic chemistry class, and he was a guy who was leading the team to the national championship. So when I thought Jack Givens, James Lee, Rick Roby, Mike Phillips, those guys walked on water. And then Kyle Macy, he was like God himself. So now the opportunity to be able to do some sort of project like that, it just makes me so grateful, so thankful. And I think as you look through these projects, you'll see the amount of sincerity and love for Kentucky sports and Kentucky basketball that we poured into that. So that's kind of all I have. I apologize if I rambled, but I was caught off guard a little bit. But anyway, I thought it worked out well. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you buy a bunch of books, and once again, like I said, I'm going to tell Alan, man, you owe me, bud. In fact, he'll probably come up here and he'll serve you all lunch. He'll be so grateful from that standpoint. So thank you all very, very much. I appreciate it. Yeah. Does anybody have any dying questions? I know as a media member, I'm always sitting there wanting to get that last little question in. But anybody have anything that they're just dying that they just have to get on? Anything about the team, the books? Alan, remember, he's not here, so you can ask anything you want. I'll be as honest as I can about it. All right. Yes? What was my favorite story? Are you talking about from the Alan's book? Yeah. By far, it was the early years, because to me, I had heard a lot of these other stories about Melvin Turpin and even golfers and Pete Rose and so forth. I'd heard Alan tell those, but the story about how he ended up here was by far my favorite. And all along, he gives you all these hints about what he did to kind of excel in the media world. He's dropping these life lessons along the way also. There was one particular instance, I think it was in Grand Junction, Colorado, where he got this DJ job doing, spinning records for like $4.50 an hour. And then there was this other DJ who came in after him who was kind of a pothead, one of these laid-back, tie-dyed shirts. And on the wall of the DJ station, it had a centerfold. Don't worry, I won't go X-rated here, but it was a Playboy centerfold at the time with a beautiful Playboy model on it. And Alan remembers the guy asking the guy, what in the heck is that doing here? And Alan and the DJ said, well, that's the way that I'm comfortable talking to my audience. You have to know your audience. This is my audience. This is who I'm comfortable with. This is who I enjoy talking to. So as I'm going around and I'm thinking, talking to all these people, should I be nervous? Should I be intimidated or not? No, because you guys are just fans. You're just people. You're just wonderful Kentuckians, part of Big Blue Nation. So this is just like me talking to you in our living room, okay? Just like the DJ talking to that Playboy centerfold. I don't know if that quite goes hand in hand, but that's the kind of story. So are you sorry you asked that question? Anything else? Come on, we can top that. Yes, sir. Yes. You're probably confusing me specifically with my brother, who a lot of people do, but that's okay. It used to be I tried to correct him, but now we just kind of nod our heads and thank everybody. We're one of the same people. But yeah, Dr. Michael Huang, photography, he actually got me part of the media gig. At that time, he was working for another outlet. He's now shooting for KSR, Kentucky Sports Radio. But he found out that there was another media outlet who was looking for somebody to write stories. And he said, hey, my brother's available. He's newly retired. He can do it for you. So he actually hooked me up with my current group, Nolan Group. And I sent in something, a sample. They loved they didn't love what I wrote. They didn't hate what I wrote. And before you knew it, people started noticing me. The great Oscar Combs. Everybody knows Oscar, right? The guru of Kentucky sports. He sees me down on the floor of Rupp Arena. Once again, Chinese guy with a ponytail. He's saying, who is that guy? Is he writing for some Beijing outlet, in China or what? And I go, no, I'm born not born here, but I grew up here. And so he wanted to get my story. So get this. Oscar does this podcast where he interviews anybody who is anybody associated with Kentucky sports. Some of you may have heard it. It's called Conversations with Oscar Combs. It's about 100 episodes. And he's got Jack Gibbons, Kenny Walker, Jim Host, Ralph Hacker, all these guys who are big names in terms of Kentucky sports. And then if you look on episode number 60, you'll find little old me. And Oscar's contention was, John, you don't know it yet, but everybody wants to be you. You know? So I look back at that as a real, real blessing. So if you want to tune in and really hear my story, Conversations with Oscar Combs, episode number 60. But that's a roundabout way of my brother, how we got into it. He's actually still working now. He's a physician, so he has a real job, right? But Dr. Michael Huang, photography, yeah. All right. Anybody else? You said I had 4 or 5 hours, right? Is that right?
Yeah, your audience goes down drastically.
I've given these presentations at senior living facilities. You talk about a tough gig, right? If I can get 50% wake-up rate, then I think I'm okay. I haven't seen a single person fall asleep here, so woohoo!
Dr. Huang, since nobody fell asleep, we are going to commission you a friend of the chamber. We really appreciate you speaking today. You are now truly a friend of our chamber.
Once again, thank you so much. I mean, this really is living the dream. I appreciate you coming out. Alan does send his apologies, and we'll hold that on him. We will expect him to come back and make a real appearance here. All right, thank you.
All right, next we have a ton of door prizes. Again, thank you, First and Farmers National Bank, for the 5 copies of Cut to the Chase that we'll give away. Maybe we can start out with the first copy of Cut to the Chase. All right, also in this book is a bookmark which gives you a free party platter at Chick-fil-A. So the first ticket, 748-463. 463. We're way back here to the left. All right. Next, we have 20% off at M&W Printing. 748-562. 562. Right here. Next, we have $20 off at RB Dry Cleaners. 507. 507. 507? I cannot believe they left early. We'll just go ahead and, oh, we're right over here. Cool. Next, Buffalo Wings and Rings gift card, $25 gift card, 603. 603. Hey! Kevin, there you go. Well, yeah. All right, next is the Hardee's gift card, and this is donated by Hardee's South. 520. 520. All right. Let's go ahead and give out another Cut to the Chase. 574. 574. Okay. Yeah. So First and Farmers is graciously donating that back. They had won that one, so that we can give it away again. All right, and somebody crunched their ticket up here. I think there was strategy behind that. 584. 584. back here in the back. All right. And don't forget there is a Chick-fil-A Party Platter gift card in there as well. All right. Next, we have a $25 gift card from Whippoorwill Diner, donated by Heads Up Digital TV. 559. 559. Ben? All right, next we have a $25 Texas Roadhouse gift card and 2 tickets to Rhonda Vincent at the Center, and that's donated by Randall Dobbs Realtor and the Center for Rural Development. 748497. All right, did we get 497? Cool. All right. Okay, from the Job Shop, we have 4 tickets to Casablanca at the Virginia and a $50 gift card to Charred Oak. I think Tiffany wants that, so 523. 523. Oh, wow. All right, we're going to draw another one. The Job Shop has graciously donated that back. Ooh, an even number, 600. 548, 600. All right. Ooh, you want the prize? I was hoping to keep that one. All right, we have 3 copies of Cut to the Chase. Remember, there's the Chick-fil-A Chick-fil-A Party Platter card in there as well. Those 3 will go to 521. All right. 567. 567. Right over here. And the last, 566. 566. Right here. All right, as we finish up here, I want to make sure and remind everybody that next month's meeting is Tuesday, April the 4th, and we will have our Kentucky Secretary of State, Mike Adams, here to speak with us. And don't forget, this Saturday, the Shamrock Shuffle, downtown, there right in front of the Chamber office, 236 East Mount Vernon. And last but not least, if I could have Staff Sergeant David Sparks to come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Staff Sergeant Sparks served 8 years in the Air Force. The last 4, he was a recruiter here in Somerset. So we thank him for his service, and he'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.